It's Wednesday, August 28th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. We are getting a jump on the school year with a chat about the year ahead with folks from the NL Federation of School Councils today. We'll hear issues on their radar, thoughts about what to do with them. Parents, what are your thoughts as we enter September? Get in touch. You know, you go from school's out for the summer to OMG, it's time to get the kids ready for school again. Time flies. Summer can certainly whip by, and here we are again. And there's certainly a mixture of thoughts this time of year for parents, teachers, anyone involved with that whole back to school thing, because it's that mixture that we're actually going to stir into today for the conversation. Because the range, it goes from excitement for some to apprehension for others, right? There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot to celebrate with the new school year. There's a lot of really smart people, passionate people going into schools. And then also there are issues, right? So from my seat, from looking around, listening, top of mind on the issues side, costs for families. That whole smartphone issue in school, mental health, bullying, overcrowding concerns. That's just a few of them. There's more to be talked about. But again, parents, as you're listening to this show today, the lines are open, right? If you've got thoughts, and like I said, it's that whole range from excitement for some to apprehension for others. We're open for the whole gamut of the discussion today. Call us, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. The text line is open, 709-327-8206, or emails thesignal@cbc.ca. I have two guests in the studio for today's conversation from the NL Federation of School Councils. So the Executive Director, Denise Pike, and the President, Don Coombs. How you both doing?
Doing great. Thanks for the invite.
Good, thanks.
All right. So let's, I guess, every year, right? Similar question for both of you. What are your thoughts this year? Just like the brief blurb of your thoughts as we enter into the school year for this year, 2024.
Well, it's exciting times for the students to go back, as you said, some with apprehension, some with excitement. But for us, is getting the parents engaged in school councils, realizing we have a lot of good things going on in our schools. And we have to emphasize that because most times we don't speak about the good things that are happening. But we've got concerns with the teaching ratios. We got concerns that's being addressed right now through the Department of Education with the cell phones that will bring other things around. And as I said, when we said in the pre-talk of the days that a cell phone being a cell phone or over.
It's not the old brick of the 90s. Right now, it's the whole world is accessible for anything you want in that phone, whether it comes to getting information or bullying.
Yeah, and that's some of the concerns that we have. It's going to be continuing lobby for extra resources and different things, but that happens. But we're hearing good things from the parents, and when the parents get engaged and they lead, the students will succeed. Absenteeism is another thing that we've done, and we've done interviews with our partners across the country. We got to get the students back into the schools. We got it to be a place of learning that's safe, and they want to learn, and a caring place. So those are the things that come up, and Denise answers texts and messages every day, and it's a continual goal. But we want to see the students get back into school. We want them to be safe, and we want to be able to offer them the support that we can, and we want to get the parents back engaged with their children, because I think that may have fell off a little bit. And high-end students, they're going to succeed anyway. So the middle-of-the-road students, well, we've got to work to keep them engaged, and realize the value of an education.
Yeah, because this is the health and safety of our communities and the future of our communities, right?
Absolutely.
Like the way the educational experience is for kids, it's the future for all of us.
Yeah.
They are, and communities had to be involved.
Yeah.
And Denise and I have spoke about that.
Go ahead, Denise.
And positive parental involvement in education is so important. The benefits and research shows that the more parents are involved in their child's education, the more they want to learn, the better that they learn. They attend school more. That benefits us all as a province. So that's one of our goals. Right now, some of the things that we're hearing is really concerns from parents, and a lot of it is from what I classify as the working poor. They are looking for school supplies for their children, and when school. When school starts, I mean, every parent wants their child to have what they need in school to achieve, so those things present some challenges for parents. But there are a lot of good organizations and groups out there that are providing school supplies. So that's where our role comes in. I usually tend to contact these parents who are looking for supplies with certain organizations. And we're really fortunate here in the province, too, because most of our schools have breakfast programs, and there are a lot of children who are going to school hungry. The government has invested several $1 million for a school food program that's starting this year in the schools with the greatest need. So you're going to see children being able to avail of free lunches. So that's another great initiative that's going to be happening in our schools.
Yeah, because if you know that there's a family that is really struggling with the cost of living, to know that there can be breakfast and lunch for the kids while they're at school.
Right.
I'm assuming, but it doesn't take much to imagine the load off that can take on stress for the bottom line.
Right. And, I've encountered too many to count, and it's quite sad, situations where children don't go to school because the parents are unable to provide a lunch. And we have many great teachers and school staff in the system that do their best. They take from their own pocket to provide lunch for these children. But it's happening far too often where you can open a can of soup home and give your child lunch, but you can't send your child to school with a can of soup. So a lot of children are missing time because of that, but I'm really pleased to see some of the initiatives and some of the focus from government on children that are living in poverty. We'll always be, advocating for more resources, but we really do have to give credit where credit is due, and there are many positive things, as Don said, happening in education to nurture and care for our children as a whole, not just academically.
Yeah, okay. We'll drill down into some of these issues as the 55 minutes spins by, but for the broader explanation, for the NL Federation of School Councils for folks, they're already get it. Like they either already know, or through the course of just the last few minutes, they'll have some kind of an idea of what you do. But just fill us in for the rest of it, of just like the mission statement and what you do as an organization, as a federation.
I guess we represent the parents and guardians of every student in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. We have a newsletter that we send out as The Educator that goes out 5 times a year, I think. And Denise is sort of being an ombudsman for a lot of issues. And so we get engaged with the parents. We just sat on a new committee, by the way, Adam. Denise and I shared for a year on the new Provincial Advisory Committee on Education. That's got a totally new structure. And again, schools in the province will have access to the Minister's office now, which is we thought was very important. We worked on the new School Council Act, which is good, but we're there for the parents. We're the lobby group for them, and we advocate for them. And as I said, we deal with a lot of problems. We understood the lunch program, and I think that program brought in $3 million. I stand corrected. And we just, the former Minister Osmond just reached out to us with the Dairy Association of Newfoundland and Labrador, and they're putting dairy products into schools now and trying to lobby to get schools which are there. But we want the parents to know that they can reach out, and some communities are smaller and don't get the people on school councils. And right now, under the new School Council Act, and what pace they can be appointed, so every school in the province is represented. And we believe in equal education. I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah, like we believe that education is a partnership, right? Which involves parents, teachers, principals, government. And our goal is to strengthen these partnerships and, be part of a team that's dedicated to ensuring and promoting, high-quality education and an accountable education system here in the province. So, sometimes we get individual calls, sometimes we get systemic issues. We meet with the minister regularly and her staff, and we bring forth those concerns expressed to us by teachers and parents and students.
So having those regular meetings is obviously really important, right?
Very.
Now, do you feel you're like, it's one thing to have a meeting. Do you feel you're being heard and understood when it comes to these issues?
I do. I feel we have a good partnership with the minister and the minister's office. We always get responses to our emails and our phone calls. Do they always provide us with the answer that we want? No, but they are often a place for us to, as parents are with the Federation School Councils, a place for us to vent. But it's also very important that we continue to bring forth issues on behalf of school councils. And many times, issues that we bring forth, they've already heard, and we can then partner with them to try and resolve some of those issues. We're fully aware that there is a financial restraints, from government. They can't make everything happen at once. But, if we can continue to partner and work together as we have been, I've seen benefits.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Since the Department of Education merged with Newfoundland Labrador English School District,
Yes.
I find it's better. The team up there, and the minister and Greg and Robin and Tracy, I find we get it. It's very respectful meetings.
Absolutely.
And it's respect both ways. But the things that we have bought, for the most part, and very often, we get addressed. Not going to get it all. Not going to get 100%. But the respect is there, and both of us sit on the education accord because we also had realised that education, as we know it in this day and age, 2024, can't be the way it was 5 years ago, can't be the way it was 10 years ago. And I think the education accord, from sitting in the meetings, and Denise sits on them too, I think that's going to be beneficial to the province. And if it's beneficial to the province, it's beneficial to the students. And that's the key.
You're listening to The Signal. We are talking about the school year ahead, right? We're looking ahead for the year. So parents, as you're listening, if you've got thoughts around the upcoming school year, and like I said at the start of the show, it can be anything from excitement for the new school year to apprehension, depending on who you are, what your family situation is, what you're thinking about the year to come for yourself, your family, the young people, the kids in your family, the students. If you want to join the discussion, to talk to us about your thoughts on the upcoming school year, the numbers to call, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us, 709-327-8206. The Signal at cbc.ca for emails. Looking at, we mentioned cost of living, right? And we mentioned parents calling. A lot of the conversations I have on the show come from, especially with the cost of living. So it's like the whole post, like, COVID comes, pandemic hits, trying to come out of that, inflation goes up, cost of living goes through the roof, right? So like the conversations really started there. When it comes to parents contacting you for school supplies or other cost issues around a school year, has there been a ramp up over the last couple of years?
Yes.
Okay.
Major.
Yeah. Like how much?
We've gone from getting maybe 12 to 15 calls to 40 to 60 sometimes.
Okay. In what? A range of?
From 3 years ago, we would get around 15 to 20 calls. And
in over a couple of months or weeks?
No, yes, in a couple of months. It starts from in the end of July. And it goes on usually until the end of September, mid-September to the end of September. Okay. I had, as of 2 weeks ago, 42 calls, and I answered 2 more this morning. But so I'm up to now around between 50 to 55 calls.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are they saying?
That they don't have the funds to buy school supplies, and they're looking. The first question is, can we help? And we just don't have the funding. We operate on a $40,000 grant annually, so we don't have that kind of funding. But I always am able to get them in touch with an organization or a business within their local area. And churches also help out. But I also put out a call to parents as well and school councils, and I say, if you're able to, pick up a few extra exercise books or some glue sticks and drop them off at your schools. Sometimes kids are able to avail of them that way. I know lots of teachers who've stocked up already.
What kind of a difference, if all the kids go into the schools in Newfoundland and Labrador, if they all get breakfast and they get lunch and they have the proper school supplies for the year for what they need, what kind of a difference does that make?
Oh, a huge difference. That would mean that it would mean that kids would have the tools and they wouldn't be hungry.
This sounds like that equal education thing you mentioned there, Don.
Yeah, and I got to agree with Denise. A hungry child going to school is they're not engaged. They're not themselves. You're not going to learn properly, and we want the
also
kids
to not have
succeed.
school supplies, right?
Yeah.
So
you got to have it.
You come in, and then kid next to you's got their school supplies, and you don't. Yeah. I can't imagine.
No. And it goes back, as we said, we've got a lot of great teachers in our province. We've got a lot of great administrators, and my wife was an educator for 31 years. And she regularly bought stuff back then. And we got to get them in. They got to feel comfortable. They got to feel safe. And if the parents lead, as I said, they'll succeed. And we got to work with them all. But hungry belly in a child is unfortunate.
So should that be a baseline in the province, like for all kids? Like shouldn't that be the baseline of fed and proper tools to go to school?
Absolutely.
Okay. Dave Hillier's on the line from Grand Falls, Windsor. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Great. Yourself?
Good. Thoughts on the school year?
Well, first off, I just want to say I'm actually the vice president of the Federation with Don and Denise.
Oh, right on. How you doing?
Great. So I just want to call in. And I heard earlier talk about credit where credit is due. And so I run a big hats off to Don and Denise to talk about earlier about the issues on child hunger and moving forward in that regard. There's been a lot of lobbying from Don and Denise and a lot of good work there. And we've seen a lot of, they deserve some of the credit for getting some of these issues resolved and getting some help in the schools for our kids. And I really want to put hats off there. But the thing I want to talk about right now is mental health in schools. Our kids, that is an area I think that we really need some focus on and some more resources. Children are really suffering, and especially in the age of social media and the pressures that they're under. And even some of the kids are still going through with, they were under lockdown during COVID, and we put kids through conditions that we would never have done for adults in the workplace. And the mental health effects of those things are still rippling through the system. I'm not saying that it wasn't right or that we didn't need to do it, but that at the time, but it does have some after effects that need to be dealt with. And again, our kids, we see a lot of mental health problems in our school system, and we really need more supports there.
So question for you then. There's a couple things. August 26th, a couple days ago, press release about the safety initiative for K-12 public schools, right? They're talking about student services, teaching and learning assistance to be introduced to select K-12 schools this September. I believe they're starting with 6 schools, 6 new hires. I stand to be corrected on that. But I know this is for school violence, but that also plays a part when it comes to mental health, obviously. Do you think that might have some kind of an impact on things?
I would hope so. The key with any of these initiatives, I think, is metrics and data, understanding measuring stuff and what it does to see where success is. And I like the idea of pilot programs because then you could try stuff and see what works and don't be afraid to give up on it and then move on to other things. If you see what works and innovate and utilize, or that didn't work and try something new. But we can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to fail sometimes. That is the key there is looking at how we can make things better. And sometimes you got to take some chances on some different programs. But I like the idea of testing things with pilots. So I think that's a good idea.
So you like testing things with pilots. Now, I'm also thinking, if we're talking about mental health, I'm just looking at my two guests here in studio as well for the conversation during this hour. I'm thinking of smartphones, right? And BC bringing in a bell-to-bell cell phone, smartphone ban in their schools. We're not doing it here. We're still talking, looking at things to do. What do you think about that?
I think there's a middle ground there. I think there's a place where we don't fight. In some respects, it's impossible to fight the future in the world that we live in, but there's got to be a middle ground with accommodation where kids can't be on phones distracting all the time. But there's also, did someone forget their medication, or is there an emergency at home? And there is a balance there, right? Should it be constant bullying and pictures and things going off all class long? Absolutely not. But in some respects, I don't think fighting the future is the answer either. Is that being able to integrate technology into our lives and how we use it and in the school system. But again, that's just my opinion. I will defer to experts on the matter.
All right. Dave Hillier, thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
All right, Dave Hillier there, Grand Falls, Windsor. Parents, thoughts on the upcoming school year, call us. This is the Adam Walsh and the Signal, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us, 709-327-8206, or email us, thesignal@cbc.ca. It's a full school year look ahead, right? We're talking about some of the issues, some of the thoughts on fixes or solutions, some of the excitement around the upcoming school year. Here with me in the studio for my conversation, we've got two guests from the NL Federation of School Councils, Executive Director Denise Pike, President Don Coombs. Cell phones, smartphones. I don't even want to say cell phone anymore. Smartphones, really, right? Like the little computers in your pockets that are also bullying devices. What are your thoughts on, like I said, BC, bell-to-bell cell phone ban?
I got to agree with Dave when he called in. I don't like the cell phone being used the way it is within the school system. Okay. I think it has to be accountability from the parents, accountability from the students, and we can't expect our staff, our teachers and administration to spend, as Denise said earlier, 40 times class, put down your cell phones. But there has to be a strike one. There has to be a strike two, and then the phone should go, whether it be strike three or whatever it's going to be. But
those strikes could be bullying, right?
Yeah,
like strike one, strike two, phone's in your hand. Even though, I'm just looking up something for the class or whatever, I'll put it away. I mean, that is still the ongoing, in the air, ether discussion that is circulating from one class to another to a kid who's homesick that day of intercommunication. That is the constant bullying that can happen online these days.
And I think you're correct. I think the phone is being used for more than a tool of education. In most classes now, schools have the Chromebooks that are given, but it's a form of bullying that certain people within the structure that we have in our education system within the schools are going to use that. We see that we hear the stories in CBC. It's everyday occurrence, but we have to curtail it. And and it comes a time where it's got to be bad. If you're the person doing it, people know, the kids know, the people that are being bullied know, and the parents got to know. But it's got to be an accountability thing, and there's got to be repercussions to any action. There has to be a reaction.
Denise?
We're hearing from parents and teachers on this as well, and the majority of parents that I'm hearing for really do want restrictions, as well does teachers. I can't imagine with some of the conversations I've had with teachers how difficult it is in the classroom when kids are so distracted from what they're teaching because they're on their phones. So I certainly do feel there does need to be some kind of restrictions on this. So, if government is looking at this, we certainly support that. Will there be pushback from some? Yeah, absolutely. But as leaders and the decision makers, we have to make the decisions that are in the best interests of our children. And right now, we're being told that the cell phone use in class has gotten out of control, and it's a huge distraction to learning.
Are we slow on this? Because I'm just thinking Instagram probably around 2012, like the social media of what we know now for like Instagram, and then eventually with TikTok on the go. But we're going back to I think 2012 for the start of this, and then you had the ramp up of cell phones and young people getting them. I mean, it is 2024 going into 2025. Like we're still talking about looking at it and trying to figure it out. Why Are we late on this, or what do you think?
Well, it goes back to what we said a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I think when the two departments came together, and we bought up cell phones before. Now it's addressed, and it's getting addressed. And when I heard the press release or read the press release, whenever it was, that they're looking at doing something, I got calls, Denise got calls from different outlets about what do you think. And as I said, if we said ban cell phones, it'll have no meat on it, I don't think, starting off. I think it'll be that the administration and the classroom teacher will spend more time at it than is needed. But there has to be repercussions, and it's one of the things that we have brought back to government. And it's, again, nice to see them taking action on our requests when the parents get a hold of us and the teachers.
So that press release, August 20th, provincial government reminding families about use of personal electronic devices in schools. And it's it says, as the use of cell phones during instructional time does not support optimal learning environments for students, and with back-to-school season fast approaching, the Minister, Crystalline Howell, is encouraging parents, guardians, and families to have thoughtful discussions with their children and teenagers. And it goes on from there. It says, in addition, schools across the province have their own acceptable use of technology procedures. But again, it's fine. You can encouraging parents to have conversations. It's not the rules within a school.
Right. And I do think that piece of it is really important, that parents and home really do need to speak to their children about the importance of putting away their phones when instruction is being carried out. We just can't expect kids to, teachers to continually police it, although teachers are saying to me it's much easier to tell a kid or to have a student put their phone in, on their desk before learning starts than it is to have to be repeatedly saying, put away your phone during class. But it is necessary that the message on this comes from home and from parents. And the last thing we want to see is, a teacher having to take a cell phone from a child during class, and then a parent marching up to the school saying, give it back, because I have heard of those cases as well. So, there's going to have to be some enforcement there as well.
Okay. All right. Folks, this is the signal. If you're a parent, if you got thoughts on cell phones in classrooms or any other thoughts on the upcoming school year, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us, 709-327-8206. Email us thesignal@cbc.ca. Absenteeism. I have no idea how bad it is, other than the fact that looking into things for this show and talking to both of you, you mentioned it's an issue. So educate me, please.
We have the biggest percentage in Canada,
right?
And we're higher than a lot of the states. There's numerous reasons for it. The Child Youth Advocate did it all. Could be they never came back after COVID. That's possible. During the pandemic where they stayed home, they never came back into school. Some people, and I spoke to somebody about it the other day, we were in a meeting and, the sport thing, you leave on Thursday and you come back to school the following Tuesday, it all adds up. So, and people being bullied in schools, and mental health issues, people going hungry, it's all part of it. But we have the highest rates in Canada. And I got that from CBC. I didn't realize it until they got a hold of me and they had done their
public
homework.
broadcasters here for all the information you need.
Yeah, and so anyway, it's something that we've worked on. It's something that we spoke to the minister and our team on, and they're aware of it. But as I said at the start of the show, we got to get the students back in the classroom. We got to make them feel safe. It got to be a learning environment, and we got to do what we can for that. Not everybody's going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an Indian chief. Right? People are going to do different things. The trades are back now as big things. But education is so important, because without education, your chance to succeed is limited.
Yeah, look, there's a big range, and there's lots of jobs and careers and professions out there for folks from the whole range, from every collar you can think of to every like whatever. But just to get out of school with your high school for what that will give you for life is much greater than if you don't make it through.
Yeah, and in the past, the responsibility of following up on students who were missing a significant amount of time fell on the Department of Child, Youth, and Family Services, and the RCMP at one point as well. And there was also a truancy officer located at the Department of Education that was designated to chronic absenteeism, but unfortunately these interventions no longer exist, and because of this, absenteeism has become a growing concern here in the province. But there's no doubt it's a provincial crisis, but and parents, school councils, and schools and government need to work closely together to address it. We believe that there is a need for a more effective attendance and time tracking tools related to truancy and absenteeism that's needed. And there's also a need, to support support and foster a welcoming school environment, and because when students feel connected to their schools, and their classroom, then they're more likely to attend school. So there are a number of things that we could all be working on together. It's critical, absolutely critical, that parents take a role in this, in ensuring that their children attend school.
What have you heard from the government on action on this?
They're as concerned as
So I mean, there's
everyone
concern,
else is.
but
Yeah.
so where's the action and press releases and announcements and whatever else?
I think it goes back to resources again. When I was young, and if you were off school for a day, you didn't go out around the mall. You didn't people. You were visited by somebody from social services, the RCMP, as Denise just alluded to. But right now, it's an accepted form, so we have to do it together, and realising that government can't be the be-all and end-all to everything in education, in healthcare, in municipalities, in everything. So we've got to work to find a way to get it in, and encouragement has to come from home. If you you have to encourage your child to go to school, and when we get them in the classroom, it's our responsibility as educators, as teachers, as parents to keep them there. And if little Danny is running away and going to the mall every day, well, little Danny should be dealt with.
Sure,
so
but
it
also,
goes back.
You've got kids who may not be going to school because of the cell phones in the school and the bullying that's going on. And it's not just in school. I mean, because of social media, that bullying can be 24/7 nowadays. So you also have like what you brought up, right? And then also you talked about hunger and poverty. So like these are social, and this is not on you guys for these answers, because this is social determinants of health type things in a time when we have a health accord, an education accord, and we're trying to reinvent a bunch of wheels here in order to make our system work in this post-pandemic or whatever, even though we're still in the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, type of a world for functioning and systems.
Yeah.
It's true. It's different, but we've got to figure it out as parents. We've got to figure it out. And it's difficult. We know some other stories that have happened. We know the food issue was something we lobbied on with the sugar tax, because when that came out, everybody, government, what you're taking from the people that need it. And so it's been constant. But I really believe, Adam, if we work together and we get the support of government and their team, I think we'll make some subtle changes. A change at a time, because we're not going to fix everything 100%.
No, stuff takes time.
And you can't be 100% to 100% of the people 100% of the time. And we will continue to lobby in our thing. Government, I really believe, will continue to listen. And we've got to get to our responsibility, because we represent the parents and the guardians. We got to get them engaged in the school communities.
I'll go back to what I just said. There absolutely needs to be more effective attendance and time tracking tools. I'm not quite sure what that is.
Yeah.
But
You're flagging the issue, though. You're like, hey, this
Yeah.
is something we see, and this is something we think. So however that gets done, and
Yes.
maybe there's other jurisdictions who are doing it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the stats on student absenteeism here in Newfoundland is really, really disturbing. And in 2022-23, the number of high school students who were absent for 10% or more of the school year actually rose to an astounding 67.8%, and that's up from 48% in 2018-19. So the numbers are there that this is a crisis. And it's something that we all have to, we all have to come together to address. And there's certainly a role for government here.
And so we have, really high rates of absenteeism.
Right.
And we're not doing good on math, are we?
No, we are not.
Thoughts on that?
I think that we got to get back to the fundamentals. I think the Education Accord spoke about that. I think there will be things in place, as I said earlier to you, that the way of our teaching 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years ago is not working in our province. We got to put in a new structure and a new system, and I think that will come out of the Education Accord and be brought into school systems. We spoke earlier. We got to keep the students in school. If you're not in school, you're not going to learn. So our reading, our math, our other subjects that we're down in are going to continue to be down. But there was a time, and I go back to the parents again, because if the parents lead, the students will succeed. Because there was times when you read to your child.
Yeah.
You spent time with your child. And, we have to ask ourselves as parents, am I spending time, am I reading with them? And, and that's so important, because if you got that, you'll get the rest. And as I said, we got great educators in the system, but, we've got to put a plan in place. The plan is now, it's being done. Let's get it implemented. Let's make it, and let's be accountable. Everybody has to be accountable. Everybody has to play a role if we make it work. And, that's what the whole thing. But for those, let's get them in the classrooms. Let's get them engaged. Let's get them to value their education.
And when I mentioned math scores there, I'm going back to, let me see, it's end of December, beginning of December, 2023, right? That's when the story came out. The math and reading scores of Canadian students continued to decline steeply, matching a global trend. And this is the state of global education was given a bleak appraisal in the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA. So close. And it was the first study to examine the academic progress of 15-year-old students in dozens of countries during the pandemic. So for Newfoundland and Labrador, so this was the revelation that came out end of 2023. According to the study, the provinces with the largest drop in math scores since 2018 were Newfoundland and Labrador with 29, Nova Scotia with 24, New Brunswick with 23, Manitoba and 22, and so on. Now, for the provincial government, we're talking action, right? The provincial government is working on a curriculum renewal. With that, they're talking about increased math specialists. The provincial lead for mathematics and 15 mathematics program specialists will be hired within all schools, right? So there is look at this big issue on the math scores, anyways, for the curriculum renewal that they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful initiative, very positive step. We also need, if we want to increase our scores in math and literacy, because we're really struggling with literacy as well. We got to make sure that our kids have the resources that they need, tutoring and engaging classroom activities, and I know there's already a lot of that, but there are other things that impacts learning when it comes to reading and literacy, and that is we have a lot of students currently in our school system that are very disruptive. Yeah. So you're getting instruction that's being interrupted daily by some students who are struggling with behavior and emotional issues. Mm-hmm. So, that also is an issue that we continually bring to the minister, and they recognize it. Absolutely.
So are we talking, does this come down to a staffing around inclusion type of a thing, or what are we talking about here for the fix and the help?
I think the fix has to be a bit at a time. What Denise says, if we got somebody in the class that's disruptive, the teacher again or the student assistant has to spend time with them. That valuable time in the learning environment is taken away from the rest of the students, as with the cell phone. It's a part of the in-class problems, but it's being identified and it's got to be dealt with. And but that is a thing. And when we go to the classroom, we want it to be, and I hate to repeat myself, a place of learning. But the cell phone use, the bullying within school, the issues that are there, and I realize that we live in this age, and I realize the problems that we have in society today are very, very extreme and complex, and we're not going to fix everything, but we have to give that child that's going to school next week, going to kindergarten for the first time, the excitement is there, the apprehension is there, but the reality is we got to keep them in there and they got to be happy. And as you said, full belly, a happy child, happy classroom, happy child.
Yeah.
And the responsibility comes back again. A lot of the responsibility comes back to us as parents, because if we take the lead, those students will succeed and the whole thing will follow through. But that's not going to be fixed overnight.
No, exactly. And like you said, it's the full belly, feeling safe in school, right? And having the tools, the equipment to do the learning. Right. If everyone has, like, from that starting point, but not everyone does.
No, they don't.
No.
Right.
They don't. And you look around communities, and communities have to play a part in it. We, as community leaders, also had to be involved in our school life. And I know that for the city it might be hard to say, but in most communities in the province, you have to realize that what the product has been putting out from inside that brick and mortar is second to none, and it's our future.
Yeah, right. You're listening to The Signal. We got a text in. Well, and this comes back to the cell phone part of the conversation, right? Smartphone part of the conversation. Parents were adamant that they'd be able to message their kids in the classroom, even though they were never able to before. And yes, I'll date myself. Back when I was a child, if mom and dad needed to reach me, they would just phone the school, and I'd be paged to the office. That's no commentary on what it is today. I'm just saying what it was for Adam Walsh in school.
I think it's still a good thing. I think if it's disruptive, I believe that you should be able to phone the administrative assistant at the school, and your message should get there. Because we understand the needs. We understand kids can get sick, and the mom and dad might have an emergency. But the process that was there for 50 years or 60 years worked, and it should still be a part of the process. And I'm not sure how many calls go into their students or their children during the day, but I think calling the administrative assistant at the school, I would doubt if you see any administrative say, no, I'm not going to go up and let your child know something happening. So I'm old school with that as well.
Yeah. But I get that parents want to keep in contact with their child, but that's a simple solution to that is being able to text them recess time or lunchtime instead of during class time.
Yeah.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all.
No. Right. What have you been hearing from on the teacher end of things? Like, how are teachers doing?
I said earlier that I think teachers are finding it difficult to get work. Retention and everything is a problem. I've had young teachers come out, and when I go to the functions, we look at it, and they're all enthused, but they can spend 2 or 3 years on a day or two work a week, and a lot of them said to me they'll give it 2 or 3 years and they're gone. So they'll pick another profession, and then we don't get that person replaced. So
folks wanting to be teachers and then losing them to other professions because they can't get adequate amounts of work right now.
And that's a fact that's in the province. And so then when we hear about the 2 weeks ago or last week, 200 teacher allotments still short, but how many did we lose out of the system that went somewhere else?
Okay, so
yeah.
and is that a regular thing for this time of year? So, like, was it last week? Where like it was August. It still is August, but like September's next week. So 2 weeks out from the school year, you heard that the stat was 200 teachers still needed to be assigned for positions. Okay, is that a regular thing every year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's regular, and what I like to see, and Denise would probably, we like to see consistency in the classroom. If we got our teachers there for day one, we can be consistent. If we're bringing in other teachers all the time, you lose the inconsistency. So you lose the teaching part of it. And, I don't know how to solve that problem.
So
we've got to address it as a problem.
If every year there's all these holes needing to be filled, I know there's seniority, things within, because, union and everything else and all of that there, but 2 weeks before to have that many teacher vacancies, but then you're hearing from teachers who are leaving the profession because they can't get work. Can you kind of marry all that together for me? Because I don't understand.
Well, if you finish university, for a lot of graduates, and you owe money and you come out with a student loan and you're sitting at home or waiting for a phone call to go in as a substitute teacher, you can't do that on 2 days a week. You can't pay your bills. So they give it a bit of time and try to get into the permanent work, which is a part of the system. And if they can't, they've told me 2 or 3 years and we're gone out of the system. So we've got to work with that. We've got to work with the partners in that one too, and realize it. But that's what I'm hearing, Adam, and I'm hearing it. And it's difficult. And these bright young people that go into education and get their education degrees want to get out in schools and they want to teach, and they should be given an opportunity where possible. Realizing that in some communities, and we're not naive on it, in some communities it's going to be very difficult to get educators.
Adam, I'm going to go back to what you said, what we're hearing from teachers. Teaching is a very challenging profession. And the majority of parents that I speak to really do appreciate the work that teachers do. You'll get a handful of people who are sometimes disrespectful, but, I think that we have some of the best teachers nationally, globally, here in this province. They truly care about children. They nurture our children. They educate them. I also feel that way about students as well. I think our kids, even though we have many challenges in this province in education, I believe that we have some of the best and brightest students here in Newfoundland. But I encourage parents to work with your child's teacher. I would hope as the year begins and throughout the year that, don't talk to parents. I'll always say, don't talk down to your child about your child's teacher, particularly in front of your child. When you're part of a Facebook group for, say, grade 2, and you use that group to inform, I don't know what the date of a Christmas concert is, and to chit-chat back and forth. Don't then use that Facebook group to bash teachers, because I am seeing an increase in that as well over the past 3-4 years, where teachers are really being demoralized on social media. So teaching is a very challenging profession. And I think all of us, all the organizations, the Federation of School Councils, the government, the school district, and the NLTA and other organizations as well, we need to be doing whatever we can to support teachers in their role, because ultimately it's going to benefit students.
So you found, whether it's Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever, there's chat groups that are going on with parents, but they end up turning, I'll just use the word toxic or whatever, in subject around individual teachers. And so how does that then get back to that gets back to teachers? How do you hear about this?
When there are very nasty comments being made about a teacher or a school, there's always someone in the group that copies it and pace it to either us and or
The teacher.
and the teachers and the school as well. And it's really heartbreaking, some of the conversations I've had with teachers and administrators where they had some of these comments have gotten back to them. How defeated it makes them. It really sucks the morale and positivity out of teaching for a lot of these people. It's heartbreaking.
Oh, as someone who gets the occasional mean email, it's not, it can make your job hard, right? I can only imagine. You're trying to teach and focus, and then the parents of the kids you're teaching are saying things, and it gets sent to you.
Right. And, I always say to parents, if you have an issue, go speak to your child's teacher privately. And if you can't address the issue from there, and it usually can be addressed, then you speak to the administrator. But taking to social media to bash and demoralize teachers is very unfair.
Here's an email from Thomas. It says, well, hi there. I think a huge gap in the Newfoundland and Labrador school system is that there are no social workers assigned to specific schools as part of the Department of Education or school boards. Many other provinces have social workers employed within the school system itself, and this is not the case here. I hear a lot of talk of ensuring that parents have responsible conversations or that parents begin the learning at home. This puts an awful lot of trust in parents, many of whom are struggling with their own mental health or lack of skill in parenting, many times through no fault of their own. Social workers help students with mental health issues and help coordinate access to resources for parents that may also be struggling. It's a huge gap in our system.
He's absolutely right. He hit the nail on the head there, because in other provinces, some of these issues that we're talking about absenteeism, bullying, huge mental health issues, would and could be addressed if we did have social workers that were closely connected to schools, plus some therapists that kids could access easily.
So it reminds me of a lot of times when we do housing and homelessness conversation, we talk about the importance of wraparound supports and stuff. So then, hey, schools, right? Wraparound supports.
That was a great text.
Yeah.
And the stuff that we
Thank you
spoke
for that,
about.
Thomas.
And it'll address a lot of the issues that we're addressing now could be addressed if that was a part of the school system through the Department of Education.
Yeah.
All right. Folks, we're out of time. Thank you for coming in. For both of you, Denise Pike and Don Coombs from the NL Federation of School Councils, thank you so much for this conversation today.
Thank you for having us.
All right, folks. Tomorrow, that's it for today's show. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow, after 145 years, the People's Paper, the Telegram, is not being printed in this province anymore. 145 years. It's a lot of printing, a lot of coverage, a lot of memories. Tomorrow on The Signal, we're taking time to appreciate that history. What are your memories of the Telegram, its importance to your community, the importance of the printed word delivered to your door? Full call-in show Thursday, tomorrow on The Signal. Call in, talk to us about the Telegram. I'll talk about when I used to be a paper carrier back in the 90s. In the meantime, taking us out today, here's you'll figure out why we're playing it. Here's the Bare Naked Ladies.